You may know Bassem Youssef as the Jon Stewart of Egypt, as host of Egypt's first and only political satire show. He was kicked out of his country during the Arab Spring. Now here in the U.S., restarting, he's here to talk to us today about resilience and everything he's learned along the way. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bassem.
I don't know about resilience. I mean, that was for a guy who left, that doesn't say a lot about resilience.
I think you've got a lot to talk to us about resilience.
Oh, right.
All right, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. Let's first start with how you got into satire and the whole show in the first place, because people may or may not know that you started as a heart surgeon in Egypt.
I used to be a heart surgeon in Egypt, and this is one of two professions you're allowed to have, because otherwise your parents would be very disappointed at you. So I was a heart surgeon, and then the revolution happened, and then I was just one of many doctors in the streets trying to stitch injuries instead of causing them, because I have a very bad aim. And so I started doing that, and when the revolution happened, I mean, I didn't think of like anything that's related to media or political satire, but looking back at what was the media doing, and the stark differences between what you saw on the street and what you saw in state-run media, it's as if our media was as if like Breitbart, Fox News, and InfoWars had an orgy, and this was the product of that orgy. And absolutely like shameful brainwashing was happening. And at that time, a friend of mine was trying to create Arabic content on YouTube, and we found that this could be like a great opportunity, because at that time, originally Arabic content on YouTube did not exist. So I started to do this 5 minutes YouTube videos for my apartment, and I didn't expect many views. I thought maybe 10,000 views.
Yeah.
And I ended up with 5 million in a few weeks. And I know that 5 million doesn't seem like a lot right now. It's just like my cat gets more views, but but at that time, 2011, Egypt YouTube, that was like a big deal.
Sure.
And it just caught fire and went to network and got big, and we went to theater, and we did a live show for the first time in Egypt and the Arab world, and that was it. And
was comedy and satire always of interest to you, or how did that come to be the way that you were expressing what you were expressing through your videos?
I mean, comedy and satire is of interest for anybody. I mean, like, unless you're a very depressing
But not
guy.
everyone's great at it.
Well, I wasn't great. I mean, like, even when I approach comedy and satire, I didn't approach it because I was good at it. I approached it because I was a nerd. So I studied the process.
Yeah.
And I did that. It was a more of like how to create the process out of nothing, because we didn't have anything to relate to in the Arab world. So I had to look outside, and I was a big fan of the Daily Show.
Right.
And I said, like, I want to do this show.
Right.
So we started it, and it's as if like we're trying to reverse engineer it. Like, all right, this is how the show looks. How can we do it?
Yep.
So again, I think my nerd powers as a doctor kind of came handy.
And talking about religion, because you started out talking about religion and cults and aspects of that.
Oh, that is way before the Arab Spring. That was like the project that my partner wanted to do, which is the original Arabic content. I said, what can we do as an original content? And I was always interested to talk about like what makes people believe.
Yep.
And I did this like mini-series, cults. I was talking about cults around the world, explaining a certain cult or a religion or a belief in 5 minutes, and it never made it to air. We didn't have the time to air it because the revolution came. Yep. And then we switched gear.
Yep.
But talking about religion after the revolution, we didn't talk about religion. We talked about religious authority, which was even more difficult, because when we criticized the people and their opinions. We didn't criticize their religious beliefs, but they always managed to make it about them being religious, not about them being douchebags. So it's and it's the same thing with everywhere. Whenever you are like up against like a military dogma or a religious dogma, they always put militarization and religiousness as a first, I don't know if that's a right word, but like as a first line of defense.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not making fun of us or our policies, you're making fun of God.
Right.
You're making fun of, there's a war on Christmas. It's the same thing. And oh, you're making fun of the troops, you're making fun of the army, you're making fun of the honor of the country. And they just want to deflect the fact that you are making fun of the people, the individuals who are using religion or military to push their agenda.
And when you, yes, all of that. And so taking that, you know, there's a risk that you're taking by poking fun at that, by talking about that, especially in a country like Egypt or the Middle East where, you know, freedom of speech is a different thing. The state-run media is a different thing than it is, say, here. So what was your thought process around, like, actively taking that risk, knowing that the type of backlash that you would likely come up against or, you know, the response from the government being harsh? Well,
it's different because, like, under the Islam, the government of the Muslim Brotherhood, we were worried not about the government as much as the people, because it is very easy to twist what we're saying to be as if we're making fun of religion. So we always walked a thin line because we want people to be on your side and making them sure, like, because it's once you say, oh, he's making fun of religion, you will be like, everybody will turn against us. So we make it very clear that it is not about the religion. Under the military, it was different because for many people, military is even more sacred than religion. And that was even a much thinner line. And I have to say, a lot of people who consider me as a national hero, the guy who did everything under the Islamists, they actually like considered me as a traitor because how come I make fun of the army? And I said, like, it was not the army, it was the people who are running the army, people who are running the government, using the army as an excuse, as a cover. And so it was not just like the government, it is how you're perceived with the audience.
Gotcha. And let's go back to Jon Stewart a little bit and like him being an inspiration for you and sort of taking inspiration from what he did for your show. I know he's become a friend of yours and you know him quite well now. And you've spoken a lot about learning a lot from him, especially about humanity and some of the ways that he, you know, treated you coming to his show. So when it comes to things like resilience or empathy or, you know, just treating each other like humans and the, you know, what you've experienced over the last 5 years or 10 years or, you know, the whole process, what specific things have you learned from him that have sort of helped get you through what you were doing in Egypt, leaving Egypt, coming here, restarting here? What kind of guidance has he provided?
So many things. First of all, when I visited his show in 2012 and shadowed his team, I learned a lot from that experience. And that inspired us to take the show to a higher level and into the live show experience. But from him personally, and I learned that from him through that conversation. Especially within the switch of regimes between the Islamists and the military, because I was so scared to go back on the air under the military because I know now that there's a new player in power.
Yeah.
And that player was extremely popular. I mean, it's just like, at that point, the popularity of the army leaders was just like through the roof. And it would not go well to make fun of what they were doing. And I was afraid of losing that popularity, and he said, like, you know, and he told me that's the real courage.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, and he said, like, well, if you're afraid, and I remember him telling me, if you're afraid of something, make fun of that. If you're afraid to talk about something, make fun of the fact that you are afraid of something, and that will resonate even more. And that opened like a totally new horizon for me for satire, and that. And people would relate, they can feel what are the things that I couldn't say, and they feel it through the jokes and the satire. And finally, when all was done and I was off the air, I learned from him that, like, I shouldn't just be living in the shadow of that success. And I had to move on, and I left everything behind and I came here and I'm starting all over. And it's funny because here I am, 43 years old. I'm reinventing myself for the third time.
Yeah.
And English is my second language. There's an obvious accent. Don't nod. Just like, because no, you should say, like, oh my God, your accent is perfect. You should not agree to what I'm saying. You should give me some.
There's nothing wrong with an accent.
You should give me some content. Damn. Anyway, so
Your English is fantastic.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Really good.
Now I can like self-deprecate. Now I can say, no, it's horrible. And so, but like what I've been doing right now, I'm taking acting classes, writing classes, improv classes, and I'm almost the oldest guy in the class. Which is funny because like I'm kind of like double the age of everybody else in the class, and I'm restarting everything. I'm relearning everything. I'm doing stuff that 22 years old guys and girls like waiting tables doing in LA, and I'm standing in line, waiting for my chance, waiting for the big break, like everybody else in Los Angeles, which is interesting but very scary.
But you've also had the experience of having made it, not here necessarily in the way that you did in Egypt, but like you have the learned experience. No, it doesn't feel that way.
Studio executives don't give a shit. Sorry. Studio executives don't give a damn. At the end of the day, they have a show, they have viewership. I don't care if you are the Buddha on planet Mars. It doesn't matter. It's just like whatever works for our audience. And this is why when you go in, you have to forgo and forget everything that you have done. It's like here and now, and why are you valuable to this network? Not because of your history, because nobody gives a damn about your history. There are people here, there are great names, amazing names, actors and anchors here, American born, very famous. When they go in, they don't look at their history. They look at like if that show will work or not.
Right.
And there are people get canceled all the time. So it's just like, and I think it's like, who the hell do I think I am to come into an already saturated market? It is very saturated. It's a cutthroat environment and very fierce competition. So that would be fun.
Have you, in that process, have you sort of learned or experienced anything about yourself that has really surprised you in terms of that whole restarting? Like, you know, we're talking about resilience. You know, was there something that you were like, oh wow, I never knew that about myself, but here I am, and like this has taught me that I can do whatever?
I can answer this question when I make it in Hollywood, and actually I have like a show, and it's like, you know, well, I never thought that I would actually make it, and I never had any doubts. But no, it just the fact that, like, as a matter of fact, I can tell you that I am enjoying myself. It is a very humbling experience to go back down for them when I take a writing class of like 101 basic comedy. Yeah, and it's just like. Maybe because I'm from a nerdy background of always studying, so it doesn't come as a surprise that like, oh, I will have to learn this. Yeah. Even if I think I know it, even if I think I made it, even if I had the biggest show somewhere else, it doesn't matter. You start from the ground floor every time, and you hope to make it. But what I learned is like nothing is guaranteed. It doesn't matter what you've done before. It doesn't matter what ratings you had. It's just like every single day is a clean slate. Sorry.
And do you have, for someone else, say in a similar position, do you think that there's anything that you've come across or learned, or maybe it's exactly what you just said, that you would say like, this would be my number one piece of advice to someone, either doing what you did and leaving where they came from and going and starting somewhere brand new, or reinventing themselves from one career to another, that's like, learn from what I learned?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that advice will be applicable to many people, because many actually did and still do choose the easier way out, and they are pretty much profiting out of it. I mean, like, I don't know. It depends on what really you do. I mean, I had the chance to stay back and do some sort of a castrated, neutered show that will be very acceptable and earn like a lot of money out of it. But I chose the most difficult path, and I want to say to people that choose that. But like, I want to answer this question down the line when if I make it, it's like I chose the hard way and it worked. And it's like, because you don't want to like shoot with me like 5 years later and I'm homeless, and so like, well, it didn't work out for you, did it? You know. So in that case that would be a horrible advice to other people. But I think like if you're talking about resilience, I think that you should not be afraid to take risks, and you should not be afraid to. You should actually leave your ego at the door every time, You are, and if you are going to be in a place of a public exposure like the media, you are there to be torn apart. Mm-hmm. You are there to be criticized, to be broken down, and you just have to take it. Mm-hmm. You have to take it. It doesn't matter how much cyberbullying you're facing. It doesn't matter of like how some people hate you. It doesn't matter. You have to believe in what you're doing and doing it right.
Yep. So that aspects of that are a choice in many ways that you're making for yourself by putting, choosing to be in the media in that way. But in your book, I don't know if you remember this or not, because it was
you wrote my book.
I read your book.
You read my book,
I did.
So not wrote my book.
I didn't write your book.
You read my book.
You wrote your book.
Sometimes English past tense gets just like mixed up in my head.
I read
your
book.
Oh my God, you and 3 more other people that I know. Great, yes.
But in it, you specifically thank your wife for being resilient through this entire experience.
I don't know why the hell she kept up with me. I mean, like, I'm like the worst partner ever. I'm like, I'm all over the place. It's like my life is full of uncertainty. And to have someone to be an amazing support just like makes a huge difference.
And is there anything that you think her experience, with you through all of this has either taught you or that she's learned about, bouncing back from something that she didn't make the same choice to be involved in as like you have along the way?
Well,
in some aspects.
Of course, I mean, like she is one of the most grounded people that I've ever known, mm-hmm. and that actually taught me a lot. The more grounded you are, and it just doesn't just like help you in times where you're down. It actually helps you even more in times when you're up.
Yep.
Because even at the height of the success and the fame, I was always grounded. I always thought of this as an anomaly. It's like, oh, this is too much fame and success, and there's something wrong with this. Let's just like sit around, hang around, and expect the worst, and which worked perfectly.
Yeah.
Because when, everything came tumbling down, it's like,
we planned for this.
Just like it was not meant to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think being grounded, and I think, and I know like many of people watching us could be. Want to be involved into maybe media or digital media, especially because now you have new stars every day.
Yep.
And many of these stars become famous at a very, 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 very young age. Mm-hmm. And it's great, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, I got famous when I was 37.
Yeah.
So for me, fame was strange.
Yeah.
It was just like, it just came out of nowhere. And I'm actually happy that I didn't know how to handle it because it is very intoxicating. It's unnatural. It can mess up with your mind. Mm-hmm. And when I see young people now having all of like millions of followers, and I just want to just reach out to them. So like, it doesn't matter how millions of followers you are, and all of those people who love me love you, who can turn against you the moment that they see some. For them, you're a commodity. Mm-hmm. They can love you today, they hate you tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Just like don't get too much into your head, because these things are not natural. And even if you're successful online, things don't last. And now that's like a pretty much of an anti-pep talk, but things don't last forever. I can say that. And it's just like, and I think what will actually stay with people is your humility. More than anything else, stay grounded. I think that's the only piece of advice I can give to people, if I'm allowed to give advice for all of those amazing people who are just like no better.
Absolutely. So what are you doing now? What are you working, in addition to all those classes and the starting from scratch writing classes and things like that you're doing? What projects are you working on here in the U.S.? So
the typical answer for this, anybody living in Los Angeles will be like, I'm working on some projects.
Yeah.
I'm working on a script, which is true, both of them. Well, if you are living in the circles of Los Angeles and New York, this is what you do. You create ideas and you pitch them, and everybody is waiting for his break. Mm-hmm. So, there's of course the book. I tour for the book. I tour for the documentary Tickling Giants, and sometimes I have my own one-man show that I take it live on theater, and I tour for that too. So most of my work is touring, but like on the side, I am actually writing scripts. It is true, and I'm having like a project of a show that I'm pitching around, and you come here and you learn amazing facts of some of the stuff that you see on the billboards in Los Angeles, like on Netflix and on Amazon and on FX. And some of these shows have been being pitched since 2011, since 2012, and just being made. So there's a lot to learn about being patient, and it doesn't matter if you're rejected once or twice. You have to come back and you do it. And it's a life of entertainment is a life of rejection. Even
Resiliency. You need
yeah, sure. Even if you're successful, because even if you're successful, at some point of time you will be rejected. And that rejection could be in the form of a bad review. People, I mean, all the way from a bad review to being out of job to people just throwing tomatoes at you. But like it is that like that level of rejection you have to be, and that's kind of like the dark side, the flip side of fame. You can't be absolutely amazing and famous the whole time, and this like you're Seinfeld and you're just like taking the money from Seinfeld, $150 million a year each year from like. Give me some.
Share a little.
Just share a little.
Yeah.
Just like be a little bit of socialist.
So you've obviously experienced quite a bit in your career. We've talked about it all right here, but I have to imagine that those, the types of experiences you've had and the types of resiliency that we've talked about have prepared you for that type of failure or doors closing in your face here as you're doing things like that in a way that...
Not failure yet.
No, but like, small.
So dark.
For someone saying no or not listening to what you're doing.
That's rejection.
Rejection.
Yes.
Not failure, rejection there.
Still very hard. Rejection.
But
rejection
do you feel that you have like a tougher skin about it?
Oh yeah, tough skin. Tough skin. That I have.
Yeah.
And actually, you learn that more in what happened in Egypt, because like if you pass through the Arab Spring,
right,
pass of like being shut down
things
a couple
here,
of times.
Okay.
And tough skin. That I have. I just like
And so I think
never gonna get skin cancer. Very tough skin.
In wrapping up, I think that's a good way to end it. In that, like, what you've learned and the way that you've developed that tough skin through everything, say to that 20-year-old actor that's here and hasn't experienced any of those things, or someone just starting out, what would you want someone to know about the value of that tough skin, or how to develop it a bit to get through whatever may come their way?
I mean, it's just well, let's put it this way: you don't have another option other than trying. And continue to try. I mean, there's like even better examples than like someone like Chris Pratt, who just like starred in Guardians of the Galaxy, and looked at the stories of people like Chris Rock. You actually have like much more inspiring stories of people who couldn't even have like food on their table, who lived in their cars and their trailers, and they're like the biggest stars on the planet. And so, I mean, I'm just like a much smaller example. As a matter of fact, you're looking at me now on my reverse, because I started this way and I'm kind of like trying back. I'm kind of like on that, I'm trying to make it. It's different, but it is very hard. Being rejected, failing is very hard, but you just don't have another choice. Mm-hmm. Or else you just want to go into corporate America and just be a soul sucker. It's fine, but otherwise, if you have the passion for it, you just have to keep on doing it, and you just have to find your niche. You have to find something nobody else is doing, and maybe finding that something is even harder than doing it, because once you find it, it's like, this is it. This is what I was made to do, and you'll find a way. You will find a way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had a fantastic time having you here, and it's been great having you part of the conversation.
Thank you very much, and enjoy all of the sirens around us. Saleh.